Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a topic today that's guaranteed to get a chuckle or two out of us. British humor. It's more than just silly accents and slapstick, right? There's a certain art to it. It looks like we'll be focusing on four main elements of British humor. We've got deadpan delivery, self-deprecation, the wild world of wordplay, and of course, good old-fashioned irony.
And what's fascinating about these elements, is that they're not just there for the laughs. They give us a peek into British culture values, like humility, that awareness of social dynamics, even their love affair with language itself.
Okay, so let's unwrap this present. Let's start with deadpan delivery, that masterful art of telling a joke with a perfectly straight face. Imagine your friend telling you the most ridiculous story imaginable, totally deadpan. It's that contrast, right? Between what they're saying and how they're saying it.
It's subtle, it's surprising,
Yeah.
and it is oh so British. It plays into that cultural aversion to seeming overly eager or emotional. Like, why use a big gesture when a raised eyebrow will do? Think Rowan Atkinson as Mr. Bean physical comedy, but with that classic straight face.
It's all about the understatement, isn't it? Imagine responding to complete and utter chaos with a simple, oh, bother, it's hilarious because it's so unexpected.
Exactly. That unexpectedness is where the humor comes in. It's like the king of playing it cool, even when everything's going haywire.
And speaking of understatement, that brings us to our next comedic gem, self-deprecating humor. This is where the Brits really shine, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's that quintessentially British way of turning the joke on themselves.
Oh, I'm a pro at this one. Maybe a little too much sometimes. It's that art of being the punchline of your own joke, and somehow it's endearing.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it works so well in British humor because it taps into that cultural value of modesty. It's refreshing, isn't it, to hear someone poke fun at themselves instead of bragging or trying to seem superior.
Right. It's like saying, I'm rubbish at this, when you're secretly amazing, disarming people with humor, creating a sense of relatability.
Exactly. Although this is a prime example of how humor is tied to culture, don't you think? What might be charming self-deprecation in Britain could be misinterpreted somewhere else. It's all about context, delivery, those subtle cues.
So true. Makes you think about how often we miss those little things, those winks and nods that make a joke land perfectly. You know what else I love about British humor? The way they play with language. Puns, spoonerisms, all that witty wordplay. It's like their brains are wired for it.
Absolutely. British culture values wit, cleverness, especially when it comes to language. It's not just about telling a joke, it's about finding the unexpected within the words themselves. And this goes way beyond stand-up routines or sitcoms. You see this wordplay everywhere. It's woven into everyday life.
Think about those classic pub names, the Pig and Whistle, the Queen's Head, even the Drunken Duck. There's a playfulness there, a quirky quality.
Like the entire country is on a giant inside joke, always challenging you to keep up with the puns and wordplay. Do you remember that classic Four Candles sketch from the Two Ronnies? Pure genius. A misunderstanding about a hardware store order turns into this hilarious exploration of language.
And that, my friends, is the magic of wordplay in British humor. Clever, unexpected, pure joy. But we can't forget about the crown jewel of British humor, irony. It's multi-layered, often misunderstood, but it can leave you laughing and thinking at the same time.
It really is. It's like irony is baked into the British sense of humor, isn't it? It's not just sarcasm. It runs much deeper than that.
And we'll dive into those depths right after this quick break. It's like
Yeah.
woven into their comedic DNA.
Exactly. Irony in British humor is often this fantastic blend of wit and social commentary.
Yeah.
It allows them to tackle these weighty topics, but with a lightness that other comedic styles just sometimes miss.
They don't shy away from the tough stuff, do they?
Not at all.
It makes you think of shows like, oh, what was that classic sitcom? Yes, Minister. That whole show was a masterclass in irony.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, remember that scene
Oh, yeah.
where the minister, Jim Hacker, he's trying to cut down on government waste, so he decides to reduce paperwork?
A noble goal.
Right. Sounds reasonable.
Absolutely.
But of course, in true yes, minister fashion, everything goes completely sideways.
As it always does.
And Hacker's quest to use less paper, it backfires spectacularly. It actually creates more paperwork.
It's situational irony at its finest.
Brilliant. And
Yeah.
hilarious.
The show really nails that absurdity of bureaucracy, not through direct criticism, but through this lens of irony.
It's like they're holding up a funhouse mirror to society, reflecting its quirks and contradictions in a way that makes you laugh, but also makes you think, hang on a minute.
It's clever.
So we've journeyed from deadpan deliveries to the wonderful world of irony. What is it, do you think, that makes British humor so British?
It's the combination of all these elements, wouldn't you say? The way they work together to create this unique tapestry of humor. The dry wit, the self-deprecation, that love of language, that masterful use of irony. They come together to make you laugh, but they also make you think.
They don't want to just tickle your funny bone. They want to spark a conversation, make you really think about life's absurdities.
Exactly. It makes you look at things a little differently, like,
Uh-huh.
I never thought about it that way before.
It sticks with you?
It does. It makes you wonder, how much does humor rely on shared cultural understanding? Because what has you rolling on the floor laughing in Britain might totally fall flat in another culture.
Like a secret language.
Yeah, full of these little nuances, shared references that might not translate.
It reminds us that humor, like a good conversation, needs that shared context, that understanding to really work its magic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So next time you come across a different style of humor, I encourage you, dig a little deeper, look past the punchlines, see if you can find those cultural values, those social norms, the unique perspectives that shape the humor.
It's like a whole other layer to appreciate, right?
Exactly. It's a journey full of insights and, of course, a lot of laughs along the way.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into British humor. We hope you've enjoyed this comedic exploration and maybe even come away with a new appreciation for those dry witticisms and those masterful puns. Until next time, keep those funny bones tickled and those minds open to the wonderfully diverse world of humor. It really does feel like it's ingrained in their humor, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
And we were talking about Yes, Minister before the break, that classic British sitcom that was practically built on irony.
Oh, such a good show.
Do you remember that scene where the minister, Jim Hacker, wants to cut government waste?
Right.
And he decides the best way to do it is to reduce paperwork.
Makes sense on the surface.
It does, right.
Yeah.
But, well, this is Yes, Minister we're talking about.
Exactly. Nothing's ever that simple.
And, of course, it backfires. Hilarious.
Yeah. Well, it always does.
Hacker's noble attempt to reduce paperwork ends up creating even more paperwork.
Ah, that's just classic situational irony right there.
So clever. And the way the show uses these situations to highlight the absurdity of, well, bureaucracy. You know, it's brilliant.
It really is. They could have just come out and said, bureaucracy is ridiculous. But using irony, they make you laugh and think about it at the same time.
Right. Like, hold up a funhouse mirror to those everyday absurdities we often just accept without question.
It makes it so much more effective than just, hitting you over the head with the message.
So we've gone from deadpan deliveries to witty wordplay and this brilliant use of irony. What is it about all these elements combined that makes British humor so unique?
Well, I think it's that they don't just exist on their own. Yeah. Right? They all blend together, work together to create this really specific comedic style.
Right.
You've got the dry delivery, the self-deprecation, that love of playing with language, and then this masterful use of irony. It's a potent mix.
And it's not just about getting a laugh, is it? It makes you think.
No, exactly. It stays with you.
It sparks a conversation, makes you really consider those absurdities, those contradictions in life and in ourselves, even if it's just for a moment.
Yeah. You find yourself thinking, I've never thought about it quite like that before.
It makes you wonder how much of humor relies on shared understanding, on that cultural context.
Absolutely. What has you in stitches in one place might fall completely flat in another.
It's almost like a secret language, isn't it? Full of inside jokes and references you need to be in on to really get it.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think that's something to keep in mind anytime we encounter a different style of humor. Don't just focus on the punchlines, try to dig a little deeper.
Look for those underlying values, those shared experiences, those things that make the humor work.
It can really open up a whole new level of appreciation.
Absolutely. Well said. And on that note, we've come to the end of our deep dive into British humor. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration as much as we have, that you've learned something new, laughed a little, and maybe even come away with a deeper appreciation for those dry witticisms and masterful puns.
I know I have.
Until next time, keep those funny bones tickled and those minds open to the wonderfully diverse world of humor out there.